Oh, you're still single? Pathetic for someone your age. I encountered my ex-husband in a fancy Chinese restaurant. His words were as sarcastic as ever, stirring irritation in me. Amidst our conversation, my sister, whom he had eloped with, appeared. Facing my ex-husband's declaration of their upcoming marriage, I couldn't help but mock him. What? You didn't tell her? I was about to drop a bombshell on my jubilant ex-husband. My name is Marie. I'm a 39-year-old housewife. I married Ken, who works in the transport industry, about 2 years ago. We met at the company where I was an office clerk. His bright and energetic demeanor left a good impression on me, and I made the first move. His friendly nature and masculine charm were what drew me to him. It was love at first sight. He reciprocated my feelings, and we married within 6 months. During our courtship, I thought he was kind and personable, but after marriage, he changed completely. It became routine for him to yell at me. At times, his behavior was dehumanizing. I never imagined married life would be this painful and difficult. Every day was gloomy, and I even started to fear my husband. Ken was a short-distance delivery driver, not a long-haul trucker. If he had been on long trips, I might have had some respite, but his job involved delivering numerous packages to various locations daily. He'd usually be home by evening. Early in our marriage, I expressed a desire to work. I want to contribute to our finances. Working together would mean more savings, and it'll help if we have children. At that moment, he slammed his drink down on the table and began berating me. Are you saying my income isn't enough? I never meant that. His drunken rage was terrifying. As he looked ready to throw the glass at me, I hastily tried to appease him. No, that's not it. I just don't want to be a burden to you. So you think you're better than me, huh? Who do you think provides this lifestyle? Your earnings wouldn't even matter, so don't act all high and mighty. It became clear after marriage that he was paranoid and emotionally unstable, something I hadn't seen while we were dating. The thought of spending my life with him filled me with immense anxiety. Then, an event stoked these fears even more. I'm so happy Marie married my son. I worried he'd never bring home a girlfriend, let alone get married. This happened at a Christmas gathering at my parents-in-law's house. My parents-in-law were really kind people, and they also cared for me very much. When we got married, they were as happy as if we had given birth to our own child. They were genuinely kind people, especially my mother-in-law Jessica and father-in-law Daniel. They cared for me dearly. The only solace in my stifling marriage was meals with my in-laws. But even in front of them, my husband began to make a spectacle of me. It all started at that family gathering. Aren't I lucky to have such a beautiful wife? Look at mine. She's gotten so out of shape. A relative joked about his wife, who playfully retorted while pinching his belly, lightening the mood. Then my husband chimed in. What are you talking about? Marie's figure is so bad, she barely looks like a woman. Your wife is way more elegant and attractive. His unexpected and revealing remarks left me speechless. Though the male relatives told him to stop, everyone else was laughing as if it were a great joke. The only one who seemed to sense something was wrong was my father-in-law. Marie, go to the kitchen. Help Jessica with the dinner preparations there, Daniel said to me, visibly shaken. This gave me a chance to escape the scene, and I hurried to the kitchen with Jessica. Overwhelmed with grief, I broke into tears. Jessica consoled me like a mother. Daniel, on the other hand, scolded everyone for laughing and drinking, persuading them to apologize to me. Everyone apologized except for my drunken husband, who was defiant. A husband apologizing to his wife? That's why Dad is always mocked by Mom. Can't you maintain some dignity? This inexplicably led to a father-son argument. The gathering ended early, and from that day, the relationship between Daniel and my husband deteriorated. My visits to my husband's family home became almost non-existent. From then on, my life was a living hell. Deprived of my only joy, I lost all hope and grew weaker day by day. I couldn't find the energy to do household chores, and my husband would scream at me whenever he remembered that day. "You must have said something to Dad and them. You made me a laughingstock in front of everyone. How are you going to make this right?" His threatening demeanor left me in constant fear. I was emotionally exhausted. Living on the 10th floor of a condominium, I sometimes wondered if jumping off would end my misery. When one is mentally drained, rational thinking becomes impossible, and that was exactly my state. I wished he would just kill me. That's when I thought about that. It was then that my sister visited. "You haven't been in touch lately, so I got worried, Marie. You look terrible," said my sister Michelle, who is 3 years older than me and works nights. A popular figure in her job, Michelle appears much younger than her age and was a top earner at her previous workplace. It was unusual for her to visit unannounced, so I asked her why. She was in the area to check on her new shop's construction and decided to stop by on her way back. "Trouble with your husband?" Michelle and I have always been close. She was overjoyed at my wedding, crying with happiness. I just want to disappear. "What happened?" Seeing my sister, tears welled up in my eyes as I shared my suffering. The daily harassment from my husband, living in a tortuous prison, thinking about ending it all. Hearing all this, Michelle was furious and wanted to confront my husband immediately. But the thought of what would happen to me if she did was terrifying. I begged her through tears not to do it. Seeing my state, Michelle calmed down and started pondering a solution. After a moment of silence, an idea seemed to strike her. She whispered something in my ear with a bright expression. Shocked, I asked her if she was serious. "Can you really do that?" "Who do you think I am?" She was brimming with confidence. Though it seemed like something Michelle could do, the risk, if it were discovered, made me anxious. "Don't you want to break free from here?" Seeing my hesitation, Michelle became serious, ultimately leaving the decision up to me. Hearing her words, I made up my mind and agreed to her plan. I decided to go along with my sister's plan. From that day, she started visiting daily. "People who harass others usually want to look good in public. If I'm here, he can't do anything strange to you." And so, for several months, until her shop was ready, my sister stopped by every day. At first, my husband seemed uneasy, but he gradually warmed up to her as they drank together daily. My sister would get him drunk and stay until he fell asleep. "Since you're always here for a fun drink, why not stay over once in a while?" my now fond husband suggested. When she tried to leave, he'd act childishly, refusing to let her go, a side of him I'd never seen. But she always declined. "I'll come again tomorrow," she'd say with a graceful face. For my husband, these moments with my sister were like a dream. He was completely charmed by her, paying no attention to me anymore. Then, when my sister's shop was about to reopen, a crisis occurred. "I'm divorcing you," my husband suddenly declared. Naturally, I was shocked and demanded an explanation. "Why divorce all of a sudden?" "I've found someone I care about more than you. I'll be happy with her. This is the end for us. Leave the house." His selfish reasons were unacceptable to me, and I refused to agree to the divorce. But he was prepared for that, coldly stating he'd involve a lawyer. Later, during a discussion with a lawyer present, he continued his unbelievable tirade. "Is money all you want? How much do you need? Just name your price and let's end this." He was clear about his lack of love for me, willing to pay to get rid of our marriage, his words dripping with annoyance. The lawyer, seemingly uncomfortable, showed me documents about standard settlements, looking at me with concern. "So you have no love left for me. I guess your heart is with—" Realizing who he had in mind, I hung my head. Understanding resistance was futile, and accepting the divorce terms. "Fine. I'll ask for $30,000. It was a sum usually not granted without infidelity. But he didn't hesitate, likely thinking he could easily earn it back. He rejoiced at the thought of an uncomplicated divorce. Unaware of the true situation, I watched him with a meaningful, cunning smile. The divorce proceedings moved forward without him ever realizing my true feelings. However, my agreement to the divorce was strongly opposed by his parents. When I went to inform them, they scolded him and defended me.
"What are you thinking?"
"That's right. Marie has been so devoted to our family, and now you want a divorce? To leave for someone you like is utterly childish." Jessica tearfully tried to convince him, while Daniel, red-faced and agitated, reprimanded him. But to him, their words seemed only a nuisance. He picked his ear and frowned in annoyance.
"What does it matter if Marie agrees to it?"
"That's only because you pushed her into it with a lawyer." It was clear they didn't want the divorce. They truly cared for me like their own child, and the thought of us parting saddened them. Their pleas echoed my guilt for betraying them. I loved them too, and wished I could have remained their daughter. If my husband hadn't turned out this way, perhaps I could have had a happy life with them. Regret was all I felt, and tears involuntarily spilled from my eyes.
"Really, they're so annoying. I'm done with you, Marie. I'm going to marry someone important and be happy. No more complaints."
My husband, infuriated by my parents-in-law's words, began to shout and defy them. Of course, they would never approve of such a marriage, and my husband was told off on the spot. Thus, he left his parents' home and eloped with a woman he loved, finalizing our divorce. Half a year later, I was at a fancy Chinese restaurant, enjoying a meal with my parents when it happened.
"Isn't that Marie?"
It was my ex-husband who called out to me. As I stepped out to make a phone call,
"It's been a while. You're still alive, huh?"
His usual condescending tone distorted my face involuntarily. I must have been glaring at him with a furrowed brow.
"What's with that face? If you have something to say, say it."
Even in public, he looked down on me with a cold stare, though he didn't yell. I turned my face away, holding back my anger.
"You can't even stand up for yourself. But you've gotten bolder, huh? Have you found a boyfriend or two since then?"
My provocative attitude seemed funny to him, and he laughed mockingly. This insensitivity was something I came to know only after marrying him. I hated myself for not realizing it sooner. "It doesn't matter to you anymore." Even though I didn't answer, he presumptuously decided I had no lover, taunting me continuously. He let out a mocking laugh as he continued to provoke me.
"Oh, still single. Pitiful for someone your age."
He leaned in, looking triumphant, about to mock me further when, "Oh, Ken and Marie, I didn't expect to find you here." My sister entered the restaurant and called out to us.
"Michelle, perfect timing. I was just about to tell Marie."
My ex-husband's face lit up vulgarly as he put his arm around my sister. I watched calmly, giving him a chilly look.
"I was going to tell you that Michelle and I are getting married."
He pulled my sister closer, beaming proudly. I had easily guessed the reason for my divorce was his actions towards my sister. Instead of feeling hurt, I looked at them emotionlessly.
"Sorry, I'm the one getting happy here. But hey, you're not bad looking. Maybe you'll find someone. I'm off to build a happy home with my girlfriend."
He was about to continue when, "Sorry, Ken. I can't marry you." My sister gently brushed off his hand and spoke cheerfully. Confused, he stared at her, not understanding the situation. "Actually, I never had any feelings for you."
"Wait, what do you mean?"
He couldn't grasp what was happening. I mockingly echoed in feigned surprise. "Oh, you didn't know?"
"What do you mean, didn't know?"
"Michelle seducing you was all a scheme between Michelle and me, all to get you to divorce me." I walked beside my sister, and we exchanged smiles, looking at each other. My ex-husband looked on, unable to comprehend, clearly confused. Play acting? Huh? Thanks to Michelle's seduction, I got a good amount of compensation from you and a divorce. I am truly grateful. During the divorce, I obviously got half of our assets, which meant $30,000 plus $25,000 of our savings came to me. Refusing the divorce that day was all part of the act, a scheme orchestrated by Michelle to get money from him. Michelle told me to make sure I got all the money I could from you. I desperately wanted the divorce, but agreeing too quickly might have aroused suspicion, so I played along. There's no way Michelle would say such a thing. My ex-husband couldn't accept the truth and kept denying my words. I tilted my head, feigning confusion. Michelle is going to marry me. She wouldn't say such terrible things. To take such business talk seriously, I was merely entertaining a client as part of my job. Michelle, looking troubled, spoke with her eyebrows furrowed. Putting her hand on her cheek, she said with a sigh, I was only entertaining you as a client. I never had any feelings for you. Sorry for getting your hopes up. You mean you've been deceiving me all this time? For half a year? You were a good customer. You were the top spender in my shop. So prideful, always striving to match what others spent. It was quite adorable. Michelle spoke with a mocking laugh. My ex-husband, completely fooled by her act, shouted in the restaurant. So everything about wanting to be with me and asking me to leave Marie was all a lie? Of course. Who would want to be with a man who harasses others? What? Michelle's sharp words angered him further, and he became visibly agitated. I cautiously watched their exchange, touching my mobile phone discreetly. It was hard to make you fall for me, but your simplicity helped. I couldn't leave my husband, you know. In reality, Michelle was already married, her husband working as a bodyguard. She had persuaded my ex-husband to leave me, claiming she was getting a divorce too. For my ex-husband, who had little experience with romance, her pursuit was a delight. A sense of superiority in stealing her from someone else. So all that about taking time with the divorce was? Of course, a lie. My husband and I are perfectly happy. At that moment, a man appeared from behind, approaching with a smile. Nice to meet you. My wife has told me a lot about you. Incredible. This is my husband, Steve. I invited you here today to introduce you. Michelle, arm in arm with her husband, Steve, smiled brightly, showing off their happiness to my ex-husband. He turned pale, his face a mix of anger and sadness. It's a shame you wasted half a year. Disowned by your family, and now with nowhere to go? Really pitiful. As I whispered these words, my ex-husband, overwhelmed, reached out to grab my collar in frustration. But Steve skillfully stopped him, treating him like a child. What do you know about my feelings? This year I spent pursuing her. Do you understand that? I don't want to understand. You dare to talk high and mighty after playing with people's lives? Do you know how much pain you caused me? I raised my voice, letting my tears and pent-up emotions flow, confronting him with all my suppressed feelings. Being ridiculed in front of relatives, your attitude towards Jessica and the others. I will never forgive all the things you did during our marriage. You deserve to see hell. Turning around, I called out for someone to come. Then my ex-husband's parents, my parents, and even his relatives appeared from the room behind. Let's show them your true self and how pitiful you really are. While he looked puzzled, I played the voice recorder I got from my sister, playing his cringeworthy sweet talk to her. Are you really going to leave Marie? Of course. I don't need someone who's only good for housework. I prefer someone with an adult and attractive figure like you, Michelle. His voice dripping with smugness as he hit on my sister was cringe-inducing. Despite the discomfort, I continued playing the recording, exposing my ex-husband in front of our relatives. But you liked Marie, didn't you? No way. A woman who's only good as a housemaid? I never really liked her.
I married her just to boost my own status. No real feelings involved.
The relatives showed their disgust at my husband's words. He began to rage, demanding to stop the recording. But Steve, strong and determined, held him back, even as he shouted in protest.
She was always obedient to me. Just a little threat. And she'd comply. More of a servant than a wife. I have no attachment or regrets about her.
Hearing this evidence of his harassment, my in-laws distorted their faces in anger, and everyone unanimously condemned him. He was completely alienated, criticized by everyone.
You're a disgrace to our family. How could you say such things about your own wife?
It's shameful for a man to act like this. I'm embarrassed he's part of our family. While everyone looked at him with disdain, I spoke to him in a cold tone. You have no one on your side anymore. Understand this and never come near our family again. I never want to see your face again. I triumphantly stopped the voice recorder and asked Steve to escort my ex-husband out. He struggled to respond, but it was futile, and he was thrown out of the restaurant. Even after the doors were locked, he caused a scene outside until the police were called and took him away. My sister and I high-fived, sharing joy in our successful revenge. We ordered food for a celebratory party, and everyone comforted me for my struggles and suffering. It was good to book the whole restaurant. I'm glad everyone could enjoy themselves without worry, my sister remarked, having arranged the venue. I expressed my gratitude to my sister for everything, enjoying a meal together for the first time in a while. This marked my successful revenge on my ex-husband. After that, he reportedly stalked my sister, resulting in police involvement and a painful lesson from Steve. He never dared to show up again after being intimidated by Steve. 13 years have passed since then, and I now handle the accounting for my sister's shop. I still keep in touch with my in-laws, occasionally going out for meals with them. I am forever grateful to my sister for saving me from my hell. As I work hard alongside her, I vowed to repay this immense debt of gratitude someday.